Welcome to the Queer Compass. I'm Luis.
I'm Eric, and we're your two gay besties.
And we're here to talk about lifestyle, career, pop culture, and everything else.
Oh my gosh, I love the little Britney printout on your computer.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so actually this is perfect. A little update.
Oh yeah?
For the Britney pictures, because my boss put it on there for me right before I was about to have my test out class for Barry's. So for those of you who may not know, Barry's is a local studio. I mean, they're around, but it's here in LA as well. A fitness studio. They do different types of classes, tread, weights, cycling, weights, just weights, all that stuff.
They're known for being awesome, by the way. Like one of the best.
Yeah, it was like the original boot camp, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it was one of the first kind of that spearheaded this whole idea of group fitness classes like that, like boot camp classes. Yeah, I went through the training recently to start working with them, which I was really, really excited about. And we have to do a test out class. So we can invite like friends and family to it, but it's essentially for them to make sure that you can lead and teach a class. Well, actually, a couple days before, my boss, the guy who's training us, he asked everyone like randomly, he's like, what would you say your alter ego is? And he's like, if somebody came up to you and asked, and we all kind of were like, whoa, okay. So I said that my alter ego was a mix of Britney Spears and Bad Bunny.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
Yeah. So then on the day of, he brought a little printout picture of Britney and put it right next to my laptop. And he said, just so you remember and channel that when you're teaching.
Oh my God, that's so sweet.
I thought it was the cutest idea.
And
I was
helpful.
like, wow, that's so good. Yeah, that's such a good, that's just such a good little idea and motivation, you know?
Yeah.
So, so I still have it on my laptop.
Yes.
I can't get rid of it. I'm like, it's.
Because I know not everyone knows, but when you think of Britney performing and you get that like spirit, like a spirit animal.
No, 100%. It really is that. Like I always say, I mean, as a dancer, she was one of the biggest reasons why I started dancing. So that whole performance energy, that really is a spirit animal to me. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
So other than the comfy cozy clothes, what's going on?
Wait, first of all, I love this like ombre set you got going on, okay? Eric is over here. First of all, I'm in all black. And Eric is over here in this cute like purple ombre like suit or set.
Yeah, like a sweat set.
Yeah, sweat set.
No, I bought this for Coachella. I wore it once at Coachella. And this is the second time I'm wearing it.
Oh my God, I love it. It's so cute.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh my gosh. I'm excited to like go home for the holidays, be with family, that whole thing. My sister's birthday is actually today, well, day of recording, right? And I felt really bad because I wasn't able to be there for her. They celebrated a little bit this past weekend. And I told her ahead of time, but I was like, these weekends right now are just so packed leading up to Thanksgiving with work and stuff. So I told her that I wasn't gonna be able to make it, but I did send her an edible arrangement today.
Oh my God, that's so sweet.
Yeah, with a little birthday note and stuff. So she got it at work today.
Oh, fun. Those are so much fun to receive also.
I know.
I love it. My grandma passed away and someone sent an edible arrangement and it was just like such a fun thing to receive compared to like the flowers were also beautiful that everyone sent, but like it was something we all did together. We like gathered around, we were eating it. It's just like a fun thing to receive in general. Yeah. So yeah, what a good idea to send that.
Yeah, and it was cute because she sent me a picture of it and was like, thanks for the arrangement. She's like, Marco's like eating fruits and foods now, and she's like, Marco will also enjoy it very much because he like loves fruit right now. So I was like, oh, okay, that's good.
That's so good.
But what is up with you?
Speaking of purple, oh my gosh, I went to the Tori Kelly concert this past weekend. Yes. Purple Skies tour. It was so very good. She's a like top tier vocal talent for me. I do think she's one of the better vocalists of our time. And, it was just so good. She just also got booked for like the National Women's Soccer League Championship weekend or whatever. Awesome. It was like, oh my gosh. It's just, the show was really great. It was just her, two instrumentalists on stage.
Wow.
No guest stars. It was just, she carried the whole show. She did such a great job.
I mean, her vocals, like I would love to see her live. Like she's just such a good vocalist, honestly.
Yeah. And like when you see her just strumming the guitar on YouTube or whatever, it is literally just her singing into a microphone with a guitar. And she did, but some of her set was like that too. Like I would say she did like in the middle of her show, there were like 4 songs. Okay. She actually just like asked people, she's like, what song do you want me to sing acoustic? And she was like, who knows if it was for real or not, but she was like, okay, cool, I heard somebody say this, and she like sang it.
Word.
You know? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's kind of cool.
That is really cool, honestly.
Yeah, I thought it
oh
was
my
awesome.
gosh. Oh, amazing.
We ran into Angel there, so shout out to Angel.
Oh, Angel.
But yeah, it was a really, really great show. Top to
I
bottom.
love that.
So good.
That's amazing.
Okay, so we don't talk about this forever, but the Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest thing, I wanted to just talk about for a sec.
Yeah, go.
So there was like a random YouTuber who was putting up signs around New York City, just like 100 pieces of paper, and it said like Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest, because people would often on his YouTube channel be like, you're a less hot version of Timothy Chalamet.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
He took it in stride. He was very good sport, whatever. Funny guy. Anthony Poe is his name. And he put up these little pieces of paper around New York City. And like, I want to say like hundreds of people showed up, it looked like.
That's
and they
crazy.
did like a silly little thing. The grand prize was $50, and there was like these people. There was a contestant like dressed up and like had like a Willy Wonka briefcase and was like throwing out candy and like all these things.
Oh my gosh!
It was just so silly and goofy. And then Timothy Chalamet shows up to the contest and it like causes a ruckus. People are taking pictures. It's all over the media.
Oh my gosh. Wait, that's actually so cool that he showed up. That's amazing. I love that.
I know. So like there's all these other like spin-off lookalike contests that now happening in New York City. Hilarious. I just wanted to talk about it for a sec because like so many things right now are so heavy.
Yeah.
And so political. We're not exactly a political podcast, so we don't talk about it very often.
Yeah.
But there are so many heavy things happening right now. I was like, oh my gosh, this is one of the things where it's like, okay, I like literally all the footage is people laughing and screaming and cheering and like having fun. A lot of super young people.
Wow. That's
and I was
cool.
like, okay, we like need something like this right now.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, that's hilarious because that all makes sense now as to why. I mean, obviously, I've been getting a lot of like Wicked stuff on my social media feeds and stuff. And, you know, Jonathan Bailey, who so adorable. But it was so funny. I saw a meme that was literally like, okay, Jonathan Bailey lookalike contest at my house.
Oh, yeah.
So that totally makes sense as to this whole lookalike contest trend. I'm like, okay,
God.
now I get it.
That's so funny. Speaking of Wicked, did you see that Mattel had a misprint on their Mattel dolls for Wicked?
I did not. What was it?
They got the URL wrong. The URL for the movie Wicked is wickedthemovie.com or wickedmovie.com.
Okay.
They put wicked.com, which is a porn site.
Stop! Oh my gosh! Wait.
Yes.
Mattel.
Yes, Mattel got it wrong.
Whoever did that.
Oh my God, I know.
Oh my
God.
God.
I don't know how many dolls they had to pull, but like it was like all the Galindas, all the Madame Marble, like all of them.
Oh my God.
Had to be pulled. It was also kind of funny.
Yeah. No, that is crazy. Oh my gosh. That's a big one.
I know, it sure is. Oh my gosh.
Okay, well, for today's episode, we talk a lot about procrastination. So really, we kind of just give each of our insights, our top 3 things about how we deal with procrastination. And hopefully you guys can get something out of it too. Something that I think most, if not all of us, can relate to.
Yeah, definitely.
I think getting to the root of it, I guess let's talk about where it can come from and kind of we'll get into how to deal with it.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think for me, and probably most people, when it's all boiled down, it comes somewhere from stress.
Yeah.
You have something you need to do, you're putting it off. You know, maybe it's something big, maybe it's something scary, maybe it's something, you know, undesirable, but you've got to get it done, whether it's at work or whether it's rolling over your 401k or like something like, you know, monotonous and like big. But yeah, it definitely comes from stress for me.
I agree. I definitely think it's coming from stress. And sometimes there's a bigger stress of it, you know, like you were saying, like 401k or let's say like a will or something that you generally don't want to think about.
Yeah.
Something that stresses you out because of where you will be at that point in your life or what that means, you know, to complete something like that. But then there's also the smaller stresses of the day-to-day where sometimes we don't see it as stress. A lot of times I think we tend to think to ourselves or convince ourselves that it's coming out of laziness, you know? And while sometimes, you know, it might feel that way. I do think that at the end of the day, it comes from stress, because when you think about the things that we do put off, it's always those big daunting projects or the ones that we think are going to take up a lot of our energy in that moment. So sometimes it's just that getting started that is the hardest part.
Yeah.
And I think that's so funny, because I say this all the time in my fitness classes. Like, I always say the hardest part is probably getting here.
Yeah.
You know, at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever time that is. I was like, you guys, sometimes it just seems so daunting to like get up and go into the gym and put all that energy out. But it's like, once you're in there, once the music goes on, once you're going, like, you don't really think about it as much as you think you will.
Oh my God. I can't wait to talk about my 3 things that
Okay, great.
Because like one of them like has specifically to do with that. Sometimes people and myself can think, well, I'm a procrastinator.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's not. I think you're in a habit of procrastinating sometimes. Viewing it that way can definitely help you change your mindset when it comes to doing those hard things, you know?
Yes. And you know, that's so funny you say that, because I was thinking about this too. And remember in a previous episode when we talked about atomic habits,
Yeah.
and how basically the idea was that a lot of times we tend to convince ourselves that we are a type of person.
Mm-hmm.
The way that we talk to ourselves dictates how we perceive ourselves or how we move forward in life. It's like, oh, I'm not the kind of person who wakes up at 6 a.m. or I'm not a morning person, or I'm not a reader. You know, I'm not this, I'm not that. It's like, it really is what you say to yourself a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I do think that narrative, if we're able to switch it and start telling ourselves like, no, I am a runner. No, I am a reader. No, I am a person who wakes up in the morning. Like, we start to kind of be proud of those things, and that helps us accomplish that goal.
Yeah. And I do think it's something that affects a wide audience of people.
Totally.
I was reading some statistics that like nearly all college students admit to have procrastinated at some stage, and nearly 75% of them considered themselves regular procrastinators when it came to schoolwork.
Yeah.
So I do think it affects lots of people into adulthood. And
Did you have those moments in college where you were procrastinating?
oh my God. I didn't procrastinate papers because like the big fat 10-page, 15-page papers would like scare the crap out of me. I'm like, I can't do that in one night before it's due. But I would procrastinate studying for tests every time.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time. And it's so funny because like, I think in like thinking about my college self, in my head, I knew, okay, just map it out, you know, map out like Tuesday, I study this chapter, Wednesday, this chapter, Thursday. Why was it that I was like not able to do that?
Yeah.
And that I would end up putting it off and have to study like the week before or whatever it was, you know?
Oftentimes, you know, I hear people say like, I perform well under pressure.
Yeah.
You know, I'm better under the deadline. And that can sometimes be true for some people, but really for the most part, breaking it out into smaller chunks is the best way to go.
I think what I've learned for myself is that I am somebody who can retain information really quickly, short term, but it sticks with me more if I really take the time, which I'm sure a lot of people are like that, right? But like, it will stick with me more and it'll make more sense in my head. It'll get ingrained into my head more if I really do take the time to like map it out and take the time to absorb it all.
Wait, when you're doing these dance choreos, by the way, y'all are learning a lot of material in a short period of time all the time.
Yes.
And then you're doing it on stage. Like I watched your jeté performance the other night and I was like, I think you guys rehearsed twice or 3 times. Did you not?
Yeah, we rehearsed I think like twice. And then we did a full-on performance. But you know what's so funny? Okay, I've had performances like that. And again, this goes back to my like short-term memory. I feel like I just have a really good short-term memory because I have had performances where we have a rehearsal like a month before.
Okay.
And then we have a rehearsal like 3 weeks before. And then we don't touch it again until like the week of or whatever. And I forgot it all already.
Really?
I'm like, what is it? Like we have videos. So once you rewatch it, you're like, oh yeah, it's there. But like leading up to that final rehearsal, I'm like, oh my God, I would have rather just had 2 rehearsals in 2 weeks because that way it's just in my body. I learned it. I get to perform it. And then it's kind of like you know, let go of it after that. Like I could not. If I watched that Jade performance again, I definitely could remember it. But for the most part, I'm not just going to hear the music
and do it.
Yeah. But some dancers are like that, where I know friends who remember our college routines to the T after not having done them for like however, what was that? I graduated 2015.
Okay, but are they dancing now currently? Okay, no. So you're overriding that memory.
I see what you're saying. I'm all, no. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So those are people I would consider who danced, but maybe are non-dancers currently. So like that's how I was in college, where we would do an entire semester of rehearsals and perform at once.
Yeah.
We were working with, all the girls were dancers as growing up, and then all the males were not. So we were like constantly training the males to the point of muscle memory.
Right.
So that we could like do it on stage and it looked presentable.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think I'm more along that line.
Yeah.
Whereas like I could do some of the college routines still.
Yeah, but that makes sense. And I'm not saying there are certain routines that I for sure remember, but yeah, for the most part, like especially when it's quick like that, when I learn them, like for the TikTok videos, like because they're so simple, sometimes I will remember some if I really liked one, or if I just like kept doing it in my head. There are some of those where we learn them the day of, film it, and then it's discarded.
Dump.
Yeah, out of my brain, because I'm like, on to the next,
Oh my God.
So yeah, it is crazy. But in that, I have learned that I have a really good short-term memory. And that was the case with school too.
Yeah.
I was a really good test taker. And that wasn't always the best, because I would crash course the material, do really well on the test, and then after that I'm like, so what did I learn?
Yeah.
So it wasn't always the best method, and I did learn that about myself throughout school, so I was able to like map it out a little better. But definitely something to learn.
Yeah.
It's
oh my
crazy.
gosh, I know. Like I took an Excel class in college. I had to. And then like I really didn't use it. I used it some at my previous job, but like there was a 10-year span where like I wasn't using it regularly. So like the functions, and you get like, it gets lost, it's
totally.
like relearning how to play the piano. I took piano lessons for 14 years as a kid. Like I haven't
14.
played. Yeah,
Wow.
I haven't played. I don't have a keyboard here. So like when I sit down at any piano now, I have to really kind of like work to pull back those memories. But those are things that like we look forward to, like piano and dancing.
Yeah.
But procrastination is like things you don't look forward to.
Right.
So do you want to move on and like, let's go over the 3 things each. We've not yet revealed our 3 tips to one another.
Yeah, so we're gonna see if they're like similar, different, what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to be first?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. My first one is, don't mistakenly assume that you need to be in the right state of mind to get started. I think there can be a common misconception, like, now's not the right time. I need to be in the right state of mind. I can't do this right now. You will eventually find out that there is no convenient time to do a hard thing. Mark Twain said it once. He says, eat the frog. If it's your job to eat a frog, do it first thing in the morning, so you essentially don't have to like think about eating a frog all day. So do the hard thing in the morning. And don't wait for this magical perfect time to come along to do something, because it's not coming.
Oh my God, that's hilarious, because I literally, really is one of, it goes into what you're saying here.
Okay.
And I'm a big to-do list person. Well, one, I'm a big planner person, okay? So I use my phone calendar. I have a physical planner that I like to write in. I like to map out, the month, and then I like to write my to-dos for the week and the day. So on my day-to-day to-do list, right, I'm very aware of what the big things are. And it's funny because as I go through the list, I think about 2 things. I think about what is the timeliest, right? So what is due soonest?
Yeah.
And then as I'm going through, I start thinking like, oh, I can do X, Y, and Z. I could do B later. And I'm like, okay, but why am I putting off B? Why am I putting off B?
You're like cherry picking the easy ones.
Yeah, I'm cherry picking the easy ones. And I'm like, okay, that means I have to do B first, because I don't want to do it. So if I just do it now, it's always way more daunting of an idea than it is once you get started. Yeah. Because for me, and for I think a lot of people, again, kind of like what we were talking about, it just seems like sometimes you don't know where to start. So that puts it off for you. Like you start to put it off because you're like, well, what do I even look into? But the truth is, it's like anything. Just start moving, Look something up, make a move. Like it could be way off, whatever it is, but it will lead you in the right direction, and you start to realize and connect the dots as you go through. And I personally think like you get so sucked into that task sometimes, and you get into a hole where you're like, wow, I don't even know why I really put this off because all I had to do was start.
Oh my gosh, over or underestimating the amount of time something's going to take you.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
oh my goodness. And if you mistakenly underestimate the amount of time, you could screw yourself.
Yeah.
And then you overestimate the amount of time and you're like, dang, I thought about this for 2 weeks and I could have done it in 1 hour.
That's exactly, I've been there, right?
Yeah.
I've totally been there. It's, again, the to-do list item that keeps moving from day to day. And then you finally get to it and you're like, that took me 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, why did I not do that before?
Totally.
Because you thought it was going to take longer. So actually, now that we're talking about this, I'm kind of thinking about it as we talk. One good thing that could probably help too is, for myself and for anybody out there, is to kind of give yourself an idea of how long it might take you, right? So like, and I feel like we might do this already, but if you're looking at a task and you're like, okay, this is probably going to take me like 2 hours, right? Allot yourself that 2 hours and check back in like an hour and be like, okay, where am I? Am I an hour away? Am I 10 minutes away? Am I 2 more hours away? Like, if I'm still really far, then we reassess and you're like, okay, do I have the time to, like, you know, manage this, or what can I do to fix that? I know that sounds like a lot, but honestly, as you're going through the process, I feel like naturally you're gonna find yourself coming out of that rabbit hole that you might come in, and you're like, oh my gosh, what time is it, and how much time do I have left?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is, I think, time management in that sense.
Yeah.
Which is not always easy, but I think that might help map out.
And like, if you have a multi-layered project that is like a frog, assessing it as you go along, like you mentioned, is super important, because I was recently doing a video project, and in my mind, I filmed someone doing a presentation that will be presented weekly, a video version of this presentation. And in my mind, there were going to be like little animations and like things where the viewer could like follow along very easily, blah, blah, blah. I begin editing. I'm like, oh, this will only take me a few hours. Well, I begin editing, realize it's actually going to take me about double the amount of time. And so then I'm like, actually, with the amount of time allotted, with the amount of effort this is going to take, and the results of what is expected for this project from like people who are expecting this deliverable, like, can I deliver it in an altered form that's still really good and not absolutely perfect as I once imagined it in my mind? So you can, as you go along, you can adjust your expectations of what that end result might look like if it's a multi-layered project like that.
That's hard because sometimes we want it to be perfect and we want it to be the way that we initially envisioned.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is letting go of that, like, kind of perfectionism idea, you know, just allowing yourself to still produce a good quality product or outcome. But I think it's also about managing your time, your energy, and is this worth like killing myself over?
Yeah.
Or like you said, can I deliver it in a different manner that'll still be effective and successful, but maybe, you know, this is just taking a lot longer than I thought. Yeah. And I think that happens, especially like, for instance, working in entertainment or fitness or whatever, that happens in production all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like they're always like, okay, we have time, but we don't have time. Like, time is money. Like, we have to figure it out. We're going to make sure if we're going to do this. It's almost like, yeah, putting that on yourself of like, I don't want to say putting that pressure on yourself, but almost being like, look, I have to make shift. I have to make it work. There's only one option, and we're going to change it up, and it's fine. It'll be okay.
And to go off your list, that's also that's one of mine, is like, make a list, even if it's small. So like, even if it's, I know sometimes like writing everything down that you need to do, like a brain dump of like the 25 things you need to do.
Yeah.
But for the day, take out a new piece of paper, write down 3 items, make sure one of them's a frog, maybe make the other 2 a little bit easier so you can check them off, but put the frog at the top and make progress on the frog. So then at the end of the day, you can discard that piece of paper, transfer the items that still exist for tomorrow, and then you get that sense of accomplishment, kind of patting yourself on the back.
Again, because I'm a big to-do list person, I think what I start noticing, okay, for instance, like let's say it's Monday and I have 5 things on my to-do list. I knock 3 or 4 of them out. I still have like 1 or 2 left. Those get on to Tuesday. Then I realize that one big, then I start realizing, okay, there's a frog here because I'm avoiding this one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it's getting to that point where I'm going to have to move it again. What can I do to get myself started? So instead of just being like, you know, on your to-do list, it might be like complete project X, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, maybe that's not the item. Maybe the item is like research this aspect of project X, or like, start the formula, start the presentation, whatever it is, like step A, right? Like the baby step. It's like, can I just do this today? Because there's two things. One, you'll at least get it started. And two, once you get started, you might realize it's not as crazy as you thought.
Okay. I have research to back this up.
Yeah.
Mel Robbins did research this specifically. So if you notice that you're avoiding something, you're like, and you just like go ahead and start it, even if you're unsure, don't even intend to finish it that same day, it's over 80% of people are likely to continue on with the momentum of that task. So it's a really high percentage of people that's like, okay, well, I'm already doing this. I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah. Actually, that was me. I'm Mel Robbins. No, I'm just kidding. No, I feel like that's 100% true, because I'm somebody who, once you get in the momentum, and again, clearly a lot of people are this way, right? But once I get into the momentum of it, I almost don't want to stop, because I'm like, if I stop, is it going to be hard for me to pick it up tomorrow? Or not? Sometimes it's not, right? But it's just the idea of it. I'm like, I'm already in it. I don't want to have to like start again. I know how hard it was to get here, so let me just push through and do it. But the good thing is that even if you don't have time to finish it, at least you're already in it, so that when you pick it back up, you're like, okay, this is where I left off. Let's just keep going.
Yeah.
So it makes it less crazy. And I know that sometimes it still is hard to take that first step. But again, just writing down that little thing, like what's the one thing of that project that you can start?
Right.
And then that'll help snowball that.
I even sometimes, like when I like get new dental insurance at a new job or whatever, I'm like, I have to like set this up. Oh my God. It stays on my list for days. And I'm like, I was like, okay, all I'm going to do on the first day is figure out how to log in, set up my password and log in, and I'll do the rest tomorrow. And then of course you log in, you're like, oh, what's over here? What's over here? You spend 30 minutes and you're like, okay, I have a dentist now. It's like done. It doesn't take very long.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's so funny. I think we talked about this a while ago, how like I was putting off setting up an eye doctor appointment. And I was like, I even asked my cousin, like, hey, because I had moved, to LA, and I was like, let me figure out my doctors out here in LA, because it's just crazy to go back to San Diego all the time. I asked her, hey, what's the eye doctor you go to, She sent me the information. I was like, great. I did not, I was like, I'll look at it later, right? So it took me forever to finally, look at it. But I had it on my to-do list. And finally, a week later, however long, it took a while, actually more than a week, but a couple weeks later, I finally just looked into it. And it was literally the easiest thing. I was like, oh my gosh. I just called. They're like, yep, your appointment will be set for a couple weeks from now. But I was like, look how easy that was.
Oh my
now
God.
I just have to go to it later, but it's already set in the calendar.
Right. Easy, which is the hardest part. Once you're off and running, you get your eyes checked, they determine what you need.
Yeah.
It's over. You're done.
Then you're there. Right. Yeah. They'll tell you what you need and you take care of it there.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it was just that getting started. So I fully understand that.
Your second one.
Yes. My second one. Okay. So I think because of the nature of my job running around LA and, teaching at different studios or filming in different locations or whatever it is, I am somebody who gets impacted by environment and also routine a lot. So the idea here is to sometimes change your environment. So for me, for instance, there are days where I am pretty much not going to be home. Right. And that is fine. I normally come back to eat and I try to focus on just okay, let me eat and then let me move on with my day. Because if I get into my room, if I just start getting comfy, the room is a comfortable space for me, a relaxing space for me. It's not necessarily a productive space for me, which for some people it can be, right? If you set it up right. But my room is more relaxing for me. So I do tend to think that while I can be productive in those moments, sometimes it's more productive for me to come here and eat and then go somewhere and do my work elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny, I was talking to my friend about this. She lives in San Francisco. And there was a while where I was kind of posting about going to this one cafe for a long time to do work. And she was like, hey, doesn't that get kind of expensive? She's like, you're constantly spending on coffee and then they want you to eat there and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, absolutely. I try not to overdo it. But then I also started thinking you know what? This is getting kind of expensive. What can I do to switch it up, And there's options. For instance, like here in West Hollywood, you have the public library.
Yeah.
That's free. You go and it's a cute environment. You're overlooking the city. They have tables like with a view, or even just tables inside the library, but it's quiet, it's serene. You put your headphones on, you get to working. And for me, just being in that environment, whether it's a cafe, a library, like any kind of study work environment, I instantly feel inspired to like be productive.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole vibe of cafes, right? People go there to kind of, it's like, one, it's aesthetic, it's cute, it kind of inspires you to be that person, you're living your little life, and that's true. And with that, I think there's ways to bring that into your home or to your office space, right? For those who maybe do work at home or an office space or whatever. For instance, your office space, you can dress it up, you can make it cute, bring something into your desk that makes you excited to like be at your desk. And it sounds silly, but you know, like being your little corporate girl era, like it's okay, you know, like it's fine to live that fantasy, because I think that'll just maybe inspire you. Or like, you know, having a setup in your apartment or your room or whatever it is, like bringing a desk in, whatever it is that you need to do. But like having that setup, for me at least, I think definitely helps me be more productive and put the procrastination aside, because again, same thing, when you're home, you kind of lounge around, you distract yourself maybe with some snacks or with whatever it is, like there's so many things. But yeah, environment for me is a really, really big one. So if there's any way that you can alter it a little bit, I think that helps.
And I recognize like a lot of people probably sit at the same desk at the same office every single day for 8 hours per day. Yep. So yeah, like if you can take your laptop and work in the conference room for a couple of hours, if you can take your laptop and work in the kitchen area for a couple of hours, just like, or in a cafe nearby for a couple of hours, nearby your office, like those, that definitely helps as well for that more like traditional format of working.
And I also think, like, from my friends who do have hybrid jobs, I think that's kind of the beauty of it, because sometimes I know they even say, they're like, I just can't work in my house today, so I'm gonna go into the office, and sometimes that helps me be a little more productive. And then vice versa, you know, they're like, sometimes I just need to be at home, I can have my cute little environment here and I feel productive and I do my thing. So I think that's kind of a nice thing about hybrid work environments, which I know is probably more common now, but is the idea that you can change up your environment.
Yeah, that's so nice.
Yeah.
My third one is to recognize like what pulls you away from doing the things that you need or want to be doing. So like recognizing distractions, if it is Instagram, Facebook, if it's video games or whatever it might be, YouTube. Recognize what that is and limit your access to those things. Make it kind of like we talked about in Atomic Habits, make it difficult. Place it somewhere on your phone screen that's like a few swipes away or in a few folders deep, so you can like, you have to go through a few steps to get it, and really eliminating or reducing the frequency of those distractions, or having like a certain time of day, like, hey, I'm going to browse Instagram at lunch for 30 minutes or whatever it is, and that's my Instagram time only, you know?
I also kind of was writing a little bit about that, but it's the idea, maybe you put your phone on do not disturb, maybe you put your phone aside. I know it's hard because, for instance, for me, I use social media and I use my phone a lot for work. So a lot of what I'm doing is looking on my phone for different reasons. But in that, even putting my phone on do not disturb sometimes really helps, because what I find distracts me is when my phone is right next to my computer and then the notifications come up.
Oh my God.
Then you start to look at it, right? And then you're like, oh, let me just see this. And then you get lost and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to put it down.
Yeah.
I've also noticed that I have a habit of just naturally work, and then wanting to grab my phone.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy, but it's true. You want to grab it, but I think having that awareness, you know, once you start grabbing it, you're like, I need to put this over there. Maybe I'm working on a project where I don't need my phone right now. So let me like put it off to the side where it's not just at an arm's length and continue working. Because I do think for me that really helps keep the distraction away.
Do you have Instagram notifications on or off?
I have certain ones on, but I don't have all of them on.
Really? Oh my God. I don't have any social media notifications on.
Oh no.
I can't do it. It buzzes. I mean, I know you can select what comes to your watch and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, I don't want it. I want my Instagram time to be my Instagram time, not someone. I don't want someone summoning me. I want to be summoning. You know what I mean?
Come on, JD. No, just kidding. I agree totally. And that's why, like, for instance, I actually don't think I have my TikTok ones on. I have, the only messages I get from TikTok are when I get a direct message sent to me.
Okay.
But for Instagram, I think it's the same thing. Only when I get direct messages to me. I don't even have my, like, follows, my comments. Like, I don't have any of that on. Mainly for the distraction, but I keep certain ones on because since I do use it for work, a lot of times, you know, people are like, for instance, if I'm doing a collaboration, I get a notification that they're like, hey, so-and-so wants to collab with you. Oh, the post is live. Let me go, you know, whatever. Yeah. So there's little things like that. But I turned most of them off. Yeah. Because I just didn't want the extra distraction. So within reason, I think. But I think, if you don't need it, if it's not a part of your day-to-day, if it's more of a just social thing, honestly, turn them off. Like, it's not a do or die, you know? For sure. Yeah. Yeah, like, I can't turn off texts and phone calls completely while I'm working because, like, my boss will call or text me and need something, like, urgently. Right. So, like, completely taking off my watch and setting my phone aside while I'm editing a video for 2 hours, that's not a thing. I have to be available. Right. Yeah, for the things that you don't need to have on, turn them off, you know? Yeah, and I was going to say too, because even if it's not the case, like, I know, you know, if you have children or they're in school or whatever it is, like, you can't always put your phone aside. Like, I understand that. Absolutely. So, yeah, within reason, maybe you do, like, make Instagram a little harder to find on your phone, or maybe you do just turn off all those notifications. Yeah. Maybe when you do have that social media break, because hey, we all need a break every now and then, you set a little timer for yourself and you're like, hey, I'm only going to be on Instagram for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Set a timer, because I know I'll be on TikTok and then 30 minutes later I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been 30 minutes. Right. So, like, you know, little things that you can do to help manage that time. What is the third thing on your list? Okay, so mine is something that helps. It was more on the idea of something that helps me feel productive. Okay. And that I think starts my day off in a sense of like, okay, I'm not a procrastinator. It's that idea of kind of like telling yourself that you are a certain type of person. One is sleep. Okay. Oh my God. Sleep is like the number one thing. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. I'm definitely trying to get better. But I do think that in the past, I don't know, actually probably since the pandemic, let's be real, because that really forced everyone to slow down, I started really prioritizing sleep a lot more. I used to be, especially in college and a little after, I used to be the kind of person that was like, oh, I can run on 3 hours of sleep. I can run on 5. Like, it was a pride thing. I was so proud of that. And I just realized, one, for my health, physical, mental, emotional, like all of that, for my health, it is the number one thing. And I say this all the time because I remember hearing this from a health podcast that I used to listen to. Everyone's always looking for that magic pill. Everyone's always looking for that remedy, right? How do I keep my skin clear? How do I, keep my muscles recovered at the most and the best? And it's like sleep is the answer to most of those things. Yeah. So I think sleep is number one. Then, because then you have the energy for the next day, right? Yeah. So getting your full night's rest. And then I also think for me, it's morning routine. I love my morning routine, and people think I'm crazy when I say I have to teach at 6 a.m., but I get up at like 4 because I'm like, but the truth is I need that time I want that time to allow myself to wake up in a calm and efficient manner. Yeah. I like to listen to 2 podcasts in the morning, NPR and The Hustle Daily. Like, those just get me up to date with what's going on in the world. Yeah. As I do that, I'm like, having water, doing whatever, like in the morning, maybe a banana, I don't know, but I get to like chill in the kitchen for a little bit. I just like am starting my day. Even listening to those things, like listening to those podcasts, getting caught up to date with what is going on in the world, all of those little things make me feel like I'm doing my part to myself. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm doing this service for myself. I'm starting the day for myself. And then I get to go on. Yeah. And I also think the beauty of it, to kind of side note it here, like the beauty of sometimes waking up at 4 a.m. is that you don't wake up to a blast of texts and emails. Right. Because nobody's up. Oh my God. So you really do get to start the day on your own terms. Yeah. And then I teach my class. When I get out of my class is when I start getting all the texts and emails and all that stuff, Yeah. So it is kind of nice in that sense. But I think my morning routine makes me helps me feel productive, helps me feel prepared for the day, and helps me feel like I already did something for myself and then I'm ready to take on the rest.
A little bit of that, kind of like I mentioned before, like you kind of get that like alone time. That's like the time that's meant for you. You're with people all day long.
Yeah.
And you're talking to people, you're interacting with people. That takes a lot of energy. Like that self time probably feels really good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I started realizing, because I am a social person. I have a big social battery. I will say that. But I think two things. One, as I get older, right? And two, because my job does require a lot of that energy, which thankfully I feel comes naturally. But just like anyone, eventually, you need a moment to yourself.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. Like as I kind of started exerting more and more of that energy, I started realizing the importance of giving myself that time in the morning. Now, again, I understand everyone's schedules might be different and maybe the morning is not your time, or for whatever reason. I like to think, as my dad always told me, it's not that we don't have time, it's that we don't make time.
Yeah.
So that's like a big thing for me. So I try to make the time in the morning, even if that means I have to get up an hour earlier than I really need to.
Right.
But if there's anything else, it does not have to be the morning.
Yeah.
Maybe you take your lunch break as your time to do whatever it is you need to do to feel like you're doing that service to yourself.
Yeah.
Because again, I will say not every morning is perfect. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm sleeping in for 30 more minutes. I wake up, I get ready, I leave.
Right.
But then I take time later to catch up on my podcast or to do whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
So it's doable, but I know it's not easy.
Oh my God, look at you getting the good sleep hygiene.
I'm trying.
So good.
I really am trying.
I have sometimes fallen into the bad habit of like sleep sabotage at night, where it's like, I haven't had any alone time all day. Like I have to like do some things for myself before I go to sleep. Otherwise there's no me time.
Because that is the one time of day where your body and your mind really don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important for us to recharge. It's like a battery.
Good stuff. Well, I hope some people learned a few things like just some relatable tips and tricks.
Yeah, I think some tips and tricks. I think don't be too hard on yourself. Maybe something we said isn't for you, but maybe another thing is. Or maybe if you even just give it a try, you'll fall into something else.
Yeah.
I think it's just all about, like anything, taking that first step and being patient with yourself. But, I think there's a will and a way.
Oh my God, that was super cute. I loved it. Didn't you love it?
I loved it. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Music recommendations for this week. What has been hot on your list? Yes, you go first.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. I have been, and I know that it's not necessarily new. She's been on the, like at the top of the charts, but also recently nominated for a bunch of Grammys, I think, too.
Okay.
Miss Chappell Roan.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And while there's so many I could pick from, I think recently just Good Luck Babe has really been, top of mind for me lately.
Yeah?
Yeah. Something about not only the message, but it's, a cute song or whatever. But yeah, it's just, I really like that song a lot right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's so good.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how like songs can hit you like later? Yeah, and like you can listen through to an album multiple times for months on end, and then it'll be like, oh my gosh, this one thing, and it like
for me it's
to
like for me it's like I will listen to an album and like I think naturally for me, like because I'm a dancer and music speaks to me in that sense, like the first ones that I always kind of gravitate to are like the high energy poppy ones or whatever, but then as I continue listening to the album, it's like my favorite changes throughout time, you know what I mean? Like, or for a couple weeks I'll be feeling one song and then I'll like switch it over, and another song is like, the more you listen to it, the more you're like, oh, I didn't really realize that there were so many elements to this song.
Yeah.
So it does change.
Yeah.
What about you? What's
my song for the week is called The Feels. It's by a producer named Jack London. Ooh. It's from 2017. It's old. It's kind of mid-tempo, very synthy kind of vocals. Mid-tempo, chill, and I just love the production value of it.
I love it.
It's been on my list for many, many years, and I just kind of every few years it'll like pop back up and I'm like, oh, I need to put this back at the top of my list. And then it's this past week that happened. I just like have it back at the top.
I love that.
Yeah. But also, this is so weird. Changes, the album by Justin Bieber, which was released in 2020. I didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
Because Dua Lipa and Kylie Minogue and Chromatica was like dominant for that year for me, but I forgot Justin Bieber came out earlier that year. And a couple songs off that album have been like on my radar too.
Oh my gosh, what is his album? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I think it was like Journals.
Yeah, is it called Journals? That album, I actually love. Journals, it is called Journals. Yeah. I love that album.
It was right before Purpose.
Yes.
And it was not on the radio.
No, but that album, I remember, like, especially in the dance community, like, that album dance-wise, like, just the musicality and the production and, like, all of that. I just remember, like, the dance community was listening to that album a lot. And a lot of people were choreographing to those songs and that music. And I think that's why I loved it so much because, like, again, the musicality and the production of that album was just so good to me. And I was like, this is something you can, like, it was very playful in the rhythm and the syncopation and all that stuff that I was like, oh my God, I love this album.
Yeah. Had you asked me 10 years ago, would you ever want to go to a Justin Bieber concert? My answer would have been no. And the same is true for Miley Cyrus. I would love to see Miley Cyrus live.
Honestly, I 100% agree with you.
And 10 years ago, it would have been a hard pass for me.
Same, honestly, because and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that. Yeah. Okay, and I know, like, hey, it's fine, but I agree because again, Journals, like, at that time when Journals came out, I was not like a Bieber fan, you know what I mean? And then when that album came out, again, I think just the music and the dance element and all that, all the things that added up together really made me fall in love with that album. That I listened to that album, but I hadn't really listened to any of his music like that through and through. So I agree 100%. But Miley's another one. That's a good point. I
know. And like some of my friends who are like not our age, or a little bit older than us, they see Miley Cyrus covering like those old rock star songs all the time and like, oh my gosh, I'd love to see her live, you know?
Well, hearing her live her vocals are amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
She's awesome.
And she does have such a unique like tone to her voice.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that makes it really cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to see her.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, y'all.
Yes, thanks for listening. Check us out on socials. Remember, this whole entire episode is available on YouTube for free. You can see my outfit.
Yeah.
And Luis's outfit.
The all black.
Our outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.